It's the dog days of summer. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the focus group. Tim Bennett here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John Nash. It's July 17th, the dog days of summer. Can you believe it, John?
I am still in shock that we're plowing through the year. I've stopped my game of
the
what
third month
what
of the third day,
what
whatever.
hour, what minute we're going around the sun, because now it's all downhill.
Right.
In fact, we had the longest day of the year back in June.
Right. And although I felt like the day after was a little longer to me. It seemed like the sun was that long.
I'm not sure if that's the case, but
Hey, find out more about us or everything you need to know about us, or download our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, as well as all of our shows at focusgroupradio.com. Our social media is called the same thing, Focus Group Radio, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Did I miss anything?
no. And when Tim does that,
And the LinkedIn, which nobody goes to.
well, you go to LinkedIn when you're looking for a job, I guess.
Didn't help us.
What? No. And what was you just did the Twitter. We were at a conference once, and
Barcelona.
And was it Barcelona, or was it Chicago?
Barcelona.
And they announced that the organization was getting a Twitter,
You can find us on Twitter.
and they were really precise with the pronunciation. And we're sitting in the back like
It was a joke.
we laughed, but
But he was serious,
he was
wasn't he?
dead serious. He was dead serious that they were on the Twitter, that they would tweet.
Twitter and the tweet. So it is hot, but I wore it. I by accident, because of Amtrak a few weeks ago, I wore a T-shirt. So I'm wearing a T-shirt today. I usually wear a collared shirt,
You look fine. Actually, you look sharp.
but I don't know. I don't know if a T-shirt's my deal. So what do the boys in the booth think? Garrett and Steve. What do you? Is a
We're
T-shirt?
not really feeling it. It's
No?
okay. It's not like bad, but I like the collared shirts better.
Yeah. Steve.
T-shirt, 100%. I don't think I've worn a collared shirt in years now.
We're not asking for you,
Yeah.
though.
What about me?
Oh, for you?
Am I
well,
off brand?
that's it. Yeah, wear a T-shirt.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we're fitty.
But no,
It's
well,
more casual.
but you see,
like I can approach you easier. I don't have to put on airs. Even your special collar.
No,
I don't
think,
have to put on airs.
Had a graphic.
I think you're more approachable with the collared shirt on.
Really?
No,
Yeah, like
too much high school principal vibe. I don't like it.
High school principal, John. That's discipline, Steve.
I get
I
weekend
don't like
golfer.
that. I don't like that.
golfer.
Weekend golfer. I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Well, I don't know. So I'll wear a collared shirt next time, I guess.
Well, you called me before the show, and you're like, "I'm wearing shorts today." No one knows if you're wearing shorts or pants. In fact, it's kind of like Joe Scarborough on all those hosts.
They have blazers on with shorts.
They just
sneakers.
come into the studio. They put on the upper half to look all proper, and sometimes if the camera goes at an angle or something, you see them wearing shorts.
When
and
someone has their
sneakers.
clothes there waiting for them, ready
Yeah.
to go. So their clothes are already there. They don't even have to cart them in like we do.
So, do you think summer is going to be completely dominated by? Normally, we get a respite from politics.
That's a nice word, respite.
I thought it was a good little SAT word to throw into the broadcast today, but I think we get sometimes we get a break. Like July and August, everything kind of dials down. I tune it out completely because what's going to change?
Politics?
Yeah, but I think with all the debates, the Democrats, with Trump being Trump, the whole thing, I think we're not going to have a summer of quiet. I think it's going to be a little hectic and busy on the political front.
Yeah, I think you're right. We don't seem to. I think there's an issue. Not I think. We know. With the 24-hour news cycle.
Constant.
It's
Yeah,
nonstop. And I don't know how somebody keeps. I have friends that constantly have CNN on or MSNBC, or we know people who have Fox on, and it's the stories don't change from minute to minute. And I don't know how people just sit there and listen to the same thing over again. They'll change hosts, and it's the same stories.
Do you know what I was fascinated by? The other day, one of our neighbors was walking his dog, and he had his son with him. And the son is in high school now. And we were just talking about social media. And I said to the young guy, I said, do you pay attention to this? Oh, yeah, because a lot of it's fake and a lot of it's ridiculous. And so I looked at his father, and his father goes, that generation actually knows the difference between fake and real. He goes, it's us that get tricked. So he called up something. He goes, here, I'll show you. He called up something, showed it to his son. Son looks at it. And it was one of those deep fake, like a fake picture thing, right? And so his son goes, he says, real news, fake news. He goes, I'll tell you in a second. He's tapping his phone. And he goes, I think that's fake. He goes, I think that's fake. I wouldn't pay attention to that. And we're like, how'd you do that? Oh, I went on here and I Googled this. I went on there and I did that. And I found that, yeah. And and I just was like, and his dad looks at me. He goes, see? He goes, we're the ones.
Well, we come from an age where when you got the newspaper or you listened to Walter Cronkite, you generally believed what you heard.
Yeah, because it was a trusted source.
The newspapers, right? They were professional journalists. There wasn't some Yahoo in a blog eating Cheetos in the basement. Tap, tap, tap.
Or as Trump said in one of those debates, a 400-pound per kid on a bed.
Russian.
A 400-pound Russian on the bed, eating imported Cheetos, right?
Well, we'll just leave it at that.
And since we're back, since we had our July 4th break and we had a week where we were traveling for the first part of July, how did the end of Pride go for you? Oh, boy.
Well, but you know what? Pride is just... companies are lazy. It's like Valentine's Day.
Gay Christmas.
Right? It's over. Rainbows go away. The rainbow things go away, and now we're on to we just finished 4th of July.
Even here on the focus group, we boxed up our Pride.
Is a leprechaun
Going back in the box. Happy Pride.
Poor thing's been out. He's been out a couple weeks with the pre-record and the week off. The poor leprechaun has been driving around trying to figure out what's going on.
He's back in the box.
Back in the box to when? Will he come out maybe in October for what is that? Coming out day, maybe.
Day. No, he's a Pride. Is he
just Pride?
He's a tool of Pride or a Pride tool. Depends on how you look at it, right?
Pride tool.
But at the end of June, a study came out that was interesting, and we didn't have a chance to discuss it, but it was acceptance of LGBTQ individuals has dropped a bit in young people. And GLAAD was all...
Why'd they say that?
A couple of factors.
Is there any hypothesis? Or?
Well, they credit the coarseness of our current political dialogue to that, to the administration, to seemingly an acceptance of they automatically went for hatred, bigotry, whatever. I'm not so sure the answer is that simple.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's something you should ring alarm bells about either, because you make these great strides in acceptance. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. All of history is always like that. So no, I'm not expecting we're going back to the Dark Ages. But hey, young people have their own set of thoughts about this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll leave it.
And they don't uniformly have to say, this is what it is, right?
No. And there's a, yeah. I mean, we'll just
leave it at that. I want to dig. What's unsaid?
What caught your eye?
What
Everyone
caught your
does
eye?
celebrity
Here's what
birthday
Tim and John found. What caught your eye?
Whoa,
Here's what
let's
Tim
start
and
that
John
again.
Found.
You did. We're all set. 1 minute I'm doing a birthday, the next I'm catching my eye.
You
And
can do both. I'll read the birthday while you're doing Call Your Eye.
same time, it could be. Hey, that reminds me of the time one of our listeners chimed in that they had the podcast playing on their phone, and they hit the wrong button and they slowed us down. Remember how it was like drunk? We sounded drunk.
Right, and that was the great one with the guy in the lawn chair, Larry, that got the weather balloons.
Flying up in the balloons.
His sandwiches and his Miller Lights. We got to find that. Did you
I have the clips.
Do you?
Yeah, if you want to throw them back up on Facebook or something, they're hilarious.
That might be a good best of clip.
Okay. All right. So what caught my eye is the headline of this article is researchers lost, in air quotes, 17,000 wallets in hundreds of cities to see what people would actually return. So plenty of people around the world, it turns out, are willing to return a stranger's lost wallet, especially if it's filled with cash, according to a counterintuitive study. The study was published recently. It was a meticulous social experiment that took 3 years and over $500,000 to complete. A group of 13 research assistants, 11 men and 2 women, were recruited for a trip around the world.
Wow, what a great idea.
They traveled to 355 major cities across 40 countries. In each city, they visited banks, theaters, hotels, police stations, and other public spaces and turned in a lost wallet. So they had these with them all set up, and they turned the wallet in, which they claimed to have found on the street to an employee of whatever business they walked into. The wallets were all see-through, which was a little odd. So it must be like a change purse kind of thing or something, and contained a grocery list written in the country's primary language, a key, business cards with a mail name and email address where the finder could presumably reach the owner. Some of the wallets also contained a modest amount of cash. Mostly it was $13.45 U.S. In 3 countries specifically, the United Kingdom, Poland, and the U.S., some of the wallets had a larger cash bounty of $94 or had the $13.45 but no key. So when they set up these fake wallets to turn in, they had the control was $13.45 and a key, or more money and possibly no key.
Like key to a house
an apartment, exactly, or something like that. Averaging all the countries together, there was a clear, if counterintuitive, result. Fewer than half, 40% of people, bothered to contact the wallet's fake owner when it had no money. So if they found it and it simply had a key, a business card, a grocery list, whatever, nothing. But a slim 51% did when they spotted the cash. And for the wallets with 94 inside, an impressive 72% of the people who found the wallets tried to return them. So counterintuitively, the more money that the wallet had,
So they dropped wallets off at, I found this at a police station.
yeah, exactly. Or I found it on the street, and they would walk in and hand it. Or they would be at a store. I found this on the floor, and they would hand it
So
to
they
a
were
clerk.
relying on the store or the
Employee,
place of business
yeah,
to return.
as opposed to someone just randomly picking
See, that's
it up.
what I would have done. I would have left it on the bus seat, or I would have just left them, like on the ground.
Just randomly laying. Well, that's an interesting point because, A, it would have been a while before someone picked that up, right? So here they're saying, I found this, a lost and found thing. Why are people more likely to return the wallet when it contains more rather than less money? It's natural to think it's simple. It's simply because people are altruistic and because they care about the owner of the wallets. The results showed, though, that in combination with altruism and what we call, the scientists called theft aversion, so aversion to feeling like a thief. So basically, the team found that wallets without a key but containing money were reported less often than wallets with both money and a key. The key, likely to be more personally meaningful to the owner, might have motivated more people to actually act selflessly. So the money was usually in the wallet too.
I wonder if it had an address or just a phone number.
Business card with email address and phone number. So you could
no address. So I got the key. I'm going to go to the house.
Exactly. You could contact somebody. So in the countries they visited, there were differences. The majority of people living in Switzerland, Norway, and the Netherlands reported the lost wallet, regardless of whether it had money or not. By contrast, a minority of people in China, Malaysia, and Peru returned the wallets, but the predominant thing in those 3 countries, China, Malaysia, and Peru, was that they kept them. They never came back. Mexico and Peru are the only 2 countries where people were less likely to return a wallet with money. The U.S. was mediocre, by the way, ranking at 21st in honesty. And that's the article.
Did they say which country was number one? Was it the top
It was the 3. It was Switzerland, Norway, and the Netherlands were the most, regardless of what that wallet had, they gave the bounty back. But that's your lost wallet experiment. I thought it was cool.
I like that. I always like those sort of things because I think it
Human behavior.
Yeah, I like that sort of thing. Mine is, I saw this out of the Philadelphia Inquirer, and the headline is, "An eyesore or environmental attraction. Jersey Shore homeowner is in a legal fight to protect her vines." So this comes out of, there's a woman who's had this property for 40 years in Avalon, New Jersey, and I would say anybody on the East Coast knows that, particularly in the Northeast, the beach communities have gone crazy. Where there used to be nice little bungalows, people are ripping them down and building these
McMansions on the postage stamp.
monstrosities, right? And so this is one of those smaller house bungalows. This woman had inherited it from her parents. And she's an environmentalist. I mean, she's been cited before. She's been in trouble. They said her place is a perpetual mess. but she lives in a pretty swanky area. But she lets her vines and her weeds and her flowers grow as part of the environment, she says, because the birds and everybody comes and eats them. But she did have 2 noisy parrots. She got in trouble in 2015 with a noise ordinance with these noisy parrots.
Okay.
Right, and then somebody...
They're not indigenous.
No, but then somebody a few doors down was going to rip down one of the bungalows and build, the guy from Utz Potato Chips was going to build a $3 million home, and she threatened to strap herself to a couple of Japanese pines. By the time she got there, the pines were already cut down. So she, so she's a bit of a troublemaker apparently in town. But so now that she got a fine in December, and she goes to trial this month in July. They fined her. You can see her house here if you're watching on the video. There's an ordinance that says weeds and plants cannot be more than 9 inches tall. So she says, though, that these vines that she has growing have been there for 40 years, and it's called Virginia vine. And when the fall comes, they lose their leaves, but they grow berries. And she said Avalon used to be a big bird watching area, along with Cape May and that whole part of the Jersey Shore.
Birds eat the berries.
She said that the birds come and they eat the berries, and it's a great thing for the winter. So she's not removing them. So now it's going to court, and they're going to make a ruling as to whether she's allowed to keep her vines up or not. And they've asked some homeowners, and they said, they understand that the town is turning more resorty, more resort sort of feel, and they think that her house is out of place compared to some of the other homes there. She says whether she wins or loses the case or not, she thinks she's going to leave. She said the place is not the way it used to be, and she's not certain she's going to stay in Avalon. But it reminded me of Grey Gardens a little bit when they were after the girls to take down their trumpet vine. They were using that as an excuse. I mean, that house was a mess.
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing. I know in a house like a brick house, vines are terrible. Like think about a university like Yale or Harvard, where they actually have to be really careful about that, because those things dig into the mortar, and after a while they put their roots in, and it destabilizes the wall. I don't know if the same. It was a clapboard, like a wooden house. I don't know if it has the same effect.
There was an old beach bungalow that they used to build then, where you probably could have bought them for under $100,000, and now the land's probably worth $2 million.
Oh, I bet that bungalow you could have bought for like $40,000 or $50,000 way back.
Yeah,
in the day, right?
People are tearing them down now and building these monstrosities, and that's happening all over on beach communities. But I thought it was interesting because she's kind of digging in, and apparently she's known to be a little bit of a...
Dug in like a tick.
Cankerous.
Tick. She's in like a tick.
So our business birthday today.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Happy 74th birthday to Stephen J. Green, born in 1945, an American businessman, an honorary consul general to the Republic of Singapore. I've never been to Singapore. You can't chew gum. I'd like to go. Although I like gum.
Wait. How
Gum's outlawed in Singapore.
Oh, so you can't even buy it there, right?
You can't chew it. And if you chew it and you spit it out, you get slashed. I think you get hit 100 times.
Caned. You get caned. Yeah.
Tough place, but clean.
Wait, tough, but clean.
But clean. So he was born in 45 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He attended the University of Miami. He married Miss New York, who...
if you're going to marry anyone, you might as well marry a queen,
Dorothea
right?
Langens, who was who he met at the Miss Universe pageant. He must have been with Trump. From 88 to 96, he was chairman and CEO of Samsonite Corporation. We all love Samsonite luggage. He actually then became chairman and CEO of something called Astrum International from 90 to 95, and Astrum, A-S-T-R-U-M, I think I'm saying it right, operated Samsonite as a subsidiary as well as Culligan Water. So I
didn't know they owned.
I didn't either. So he owned both of those.
Okay.
He owned, he was CEO of both Culligan Water and Samsonite at the same time. They were held under the same holding company until they were spun off separately in 95. And then he directed, as chairman of Astrum, he directed the company's expansion into emerging markets in Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union, Asia, and the Middle East. He opened the first American retailing store in Red Square, Moscow. Where are the Russians going with luggage? Ukraine?
They have to take the Trans-Siberian Railway somewhere. They're probably going to St. Petersburg or
Sam
something.
Kinison said, we got deserts too. We don't live in them. They don't need water. They need
luggage.
They need luggage. Samsonite.
Move! Get out of the
In this
desert.
case, you get water and luggage.
Oh.
Get out of the desert.
Culligan, yeah.
The President Clinton appointed him to the President's Export Council in 95, and then as ambassador to Singapore. And he was ambassador for quite some time and even stayed on through the Bush administration. And currently, he runs a foundation, the Green Family Foundation, which supports HIV and AIDS prevention and education, also allows access to the arts and homeless assistance, disaster relief, and community outreach in the Florida area. They also gave $20 million to Florida International University, where they're working with the medically underserved. And so he's given a lot of his money to worthy causes. And
I'll say. So here's the question for you. From a marketing and advertising point of view, luggage to me is a funny category, and one of the only luggage ads I actually remember, it was at American Tourister, the gorilla in the cage.
Oh, yeah.
Where the gorilla like throws the thing around and steps on it and jumps on it, and nothing. I forget the tagline, like nothing can do something to an American. But do you remember advertising for Samsonite at all? Like we associate the brand name with luggage, and I think with quality luggage, but I don't remember any.
The only thing I remember about Samsonite is it used to be at the end of a game show. Guests will see prizes, Samsonite luggage, American Traveler, blah, blah, American Airlines.
Yeah, so let's make a deal. Stay at the Hollywood,
Yeah.
and receive Samsonite
and
bag.
a collection of Samsonite
You guys
luggage.
remember Samsonite advertising at all?
Yeah, wasn't there the whole thing where the gorilla took it? And
That's American Tourister, I
I
think.
think that's American Tourist, isn't it?
Oh, I thought that was Samsonite all the
No,
time.
see how so American Tourister, I think, did this campaign with the gorilla in the cage.
It would throw the suitcase around.
Yeah,
Are we sure it's
yeah.
American Tourister? I guess we'd have to look that up.
But it just is a funny thing because, like I use a bag that I love now, Away Travel, which was Jen Rubio, one of our guests. And I love that. And Away, for me as a New Yorker, I saw it advertised all over the subway. And their campaigns are in very urban markets.
She's doing canvas bags now?
Canvas. I don't know. Well, hey, you got to do brand extensions, right? It was just one of those random questions of like, I don't remember a print ad or a TV ad for Samsonite in a long time.
Some come up on YouTube, but the most results are the American Tourister one.
With the gorilla?
When you Google Samsonite commercial, yeah.
Really? That's funny.
But there was one like in 1977 with the Steelers marching on it, like doing drills on
Oh, did they jump on it?
Yeah.
I do remember
Yeah,
that.
okay. Isn't that interesting, Garrett, that when he did a search,
They must have bought it up, right? If you were smart, if you're American Tourister, bite up Samsonite's going to direct you to American Tourister, right?
or the consumer it's interchangeable for the consumer. That's the danger part. Like you spend all this money on you're American Tourister, you spend fortune on your brand, and then people think it's Samsonite, and that's free money for Samsonite.
That was like
right?
when the Outback Steakhouse spent all that money at the Outback Bowl, and we bought all the TV at Subaru. We bought all the Subaru Outback commercials around. We didn't have to sponsor the game. Everybody thought Subaru sponsored the Outback Bowl. What is the Outback restaurant?
That was one of Tim's claim to fame. You call that guerrilla marketing.
All the time.
You would go around an event.
Around stuff, which we're going to be doing for another client shortly because we got kicked out.
Brand new client.
Hey, friends, you know that Deep Discount is a friend of ours here on the Focus Group. Right now, they've got an independent sale. So, similar, we just celebrated Independence Day, so they have an independent sale. Is it independent? I think that's what we have
independent
written down.
films, yeah.
Independent films.
Celebrate your independence.
Independence. So head over to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo. You'll see Sharky the Shark there. He's off the coast of Cape Cod right now, but he'll be back next week. And
Off the coast of Cape
sharks are
Cod.
showing up everywhere.
Everywhere, I know. Well,
So we each picked an independent film this week. So what did you pick, Mr. Nash?
okay, so I picked, and these might be out of order, Steve. You'll have to check the deck, but I went with The Grifters.
I've not seen that.
Okay, The Grifters came out, guys, what's the date on the release there? Is it 94 maybe?
1990.
Oh, it was wishful thinking that it was 94, right?
Sort of.
All right, The Grifters starred Angelica Houston, John Cusack, Annette Bening. There's a lot of other good actors in there. Have you never seen this?
No.
Okay, so John Cusack and Angelica Houston are apparently son and mother, and Annette Bening plays his girlfriend Myra, who's also a grifter. They're con artists. The entire movie is watching them con people out of money. And then it all gets kind of complicated, and you don't know who's conning who, and is Angelica Houston in on it or not. But it's a really good movie.
This came out in 1990. Did you see it at the theater?
I saw it at the theater.
At the theater?
I paid cash money for a ticket, Tim. Admit one, please.
Look, for $8, $8.08, you can get it.
I don't often see it on TV.
No.
I don't often see it on the
never have.
streaming platform. So I really recommend this. It's a really well done, good film, and all these actors and actresses, of course, it's when they're earlier in their career, especially Annette Bening is really young, and Angelica Houston's fantastic, and John Cusack did a good job. So highly recommend The Grifters.
So I picked a movie as soon as I saw it on the front page. It's for all you straight boys and lesbians. It's called Bound.
Oh, I remember Bound.
Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon and
Garrett's shaking his head. You saw Bound?
Rented it many times.
yeah, how you like it?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. So
Rented it many times.
Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon
Yeah.
both, making out. And
yeah,
naked
no, it's
all the
for you.
time.
So you heard it here first, listeners. The straight boys and your girlfriends, if you want to get a good movie to get. But it's a love story. These two girls kind of have a happen chance meeting on an elevator, and then they're going to kill off one of the other's boyfriends. And I'll just read what it says here. Bound is a crackling retro thriller that never strays too far from its noir roots and became the first in a line of visually dazzling films from the Wachowskis, the writing and directing team behind the Matrix trilogy. But I remember seeing it in San Francisco at Frameline because Subaru had sponsored the Gay and Lesbian Film Festival there, and we had sponsored Bound, and they were there. And there's a scene in there with those metal shears that I to this day I cannot watch. Do you remember
I might
that?
have fast forwarded through that scene.
Yeah, but it's a great movie. No, I mean if you like suspense and you like mystery and suspense and action, and there is a certain way that it's filmed which you would love. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah. I really like Bound.
Yeah, there's a palette to it that I think is pretty cool. So check out Bound.
And the new release this week coming to us from our friends at Criterion Collection on Blu-ray. And if I say Criterion, you say Gold Standard. I say Criterion. You say
Gold Standard.
There you go. Very good. Okay. Is Klute. And if you know the name and you don't remember the movie, the Klute stars Jane Fonda and Donald Sutherland. She plays Bree Daniels, a call girl and aspiring actor who becomes the focal point of a missing person investigation. And Donald Sutherland plays John Klute. The movie really put Jane Fonda on the map as a full-fledged movie star. She really does a great turn in this movie. And, of course, I usually love Donald Sutherland in most everything he's in. He could be really creepy, really reserved. You know, he's got a pretty good range. I highly recommend it, given that it's a Criterion release.
I wonder why Criterion took so long to get it out.
You know, they have... Anybody listening from Criterion, I would love them to put Amadeus on their... Because the only thing you get is the director's cut. I want the original theatrical movie, not the director's cut. Please, Criterion, do Amadeus. But I think they have a list. And Klute, finally, they have to buy the rights. They then have to get the negatives and remaster and do a whole bunch of things. But really well done, suspenseful film, nicely done. The cinematography is beautiful. Takes place in 1970s New York. So if you want to go in a time machine to what Times Square and stuff used to look like, whoa. And the cars,
When
too.
it was fun.
That's what I love these old movies, is looking at some of the old cars. So Klute is the release. So it's the independent sale over at Deep Discount. Own your passion by going to focusgroupradio.com, clicking on the Deep Discount logo. Arr! It's the shark that sounds like a pirate. Tim picked Bound on Blu-ray, Gina Gershon and Meg Tilly. I picked The Grifters, which is a great movie you don't often see on TV. Annette Bening, Angelica Houston, John Cusack. And the release this week is Klute from Criterion, so you know it's good. What do we say, Garrett?
Thanks, Deep Discount.
And we're going to be right back with a story about the country that... How would you say this? The country with the worst hiring profile when it comes to racial discrimination.
We'll be back with a shop talk. That's what I would have said.
We'll be back with a shop talk.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Oh, interesting. Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here with my good friend and co-host John Nash. We're in the dog days of summer. It's July 17th. It's hot.
Wearing shorts.
We're wearing shorts and I
don't
got a
know
black
that,
t-shirt
but-
on, but it's hot out.
Theater of the mind. You don't know, right?
Yeah. So, hey, before we went to break, we talked about a shop talk that we have, and it is a kludgy headline, so I'll just read the headline. Job seekers in one country face the worst racial discrimination.
By the way, this was found by Tim, and I was shocked.
Why?
I just was
You're
shocked.
shocked at the country?
Yes, I was actually
I
dead
wasn't.
I knew you might not be, but I was actually very
But
surprised.
I think the article is contradictory. But I'll just read the first paragraph and then we'll discuss it. So it says that while racial discrimination in hiring plagues many developed countries, one nation may have a particular trouble bidding its adieu. France has the highest level of hiring discrimination against non-white groups, according to a meta-analysis of data from 9 countries published in a peer-reviewed journal, Sociological Science. Researchers analyzed findings from 97 hiring field experiments that included more than 200,000 job applicants. In every country they considered, non-white applicants, they said, suffer significant disadvantage in receiving callbacks for interviews compared to white natives with similar job-relevant characteristics. The difference is driven by race, not by immigrant status, they felt. So France was they said the French
there was,
France had the highest level of hiring discrimination, but further on, and this is what I wanted to ask you about, further on in the article it says, the French do not measure race or ethnicity in any official or unofficial capacities, most unofficial capacities, which makes knowledge of racial and ethnic inequality in France limited and difficult to monitor hiring or promotion or discrimination. So,
is this where your critical thinking cap went on, and you're like, if you're not
telling me,
measuring it,
if you're not measuring it, how are you deciding it's France? Because I've said this before.
If you're listening and you're not watching, the teaching finger came up. I've said this.
I think there would be less issues, and this is where I think the French thing is going and why the French probably got dinged. If you didn't ask people, if you just sent a resume in, and you didn't have to check off, I'm white, I'm black, I'm Hispanic, I'm Latino, I'm Native American, I'm Asian, whatever, and then check off all the other little markers that we give, and you just sent in a resume, you're going to pick who's most qualified, right? I think when you start checking the boxes off, people then end up being discriminatory.
So another aspect of this research intrigued me, and that's the following. If 93% of resumes submitted for jobs are scanned by a computer,
Right.
and they kick back a little before a human being sees it, a paragraph is generated that says, John Nash did blah, blah, blah. How does this, so is the computer reading for race and for ethnicity and for immigrant status? I don't know. I mean, so that's the disconnect to me, is the assumption that every resume that goes in is handled by a human being and they make the judgment to grant interview or not grant interview, and whether it's a bias that's built in, they don't even know about, whatever. So there's a couple things that are odd about this. You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, and the other thing is and it's about qualifications too. So if I'm applying for a job in France and I have experience at the Santander Bank, or is there a big French bank? I don't even know what one of the big French banks would be.
And Texas
HSBC
Popular, whatever, yeah.
Or I worked at the Third National Bank of Mumbai. I might say, well, I think probably I want to talk to the person that worked at the French bank first.
Because you knew the bank, you knew the company.
Well, and there's a big difference between the two. So I don't know. I looked at this, but what I did find funny came out best was the U.S.
Yeah.
U.S. and Germany.
Because of the fact that we track that data and require employers to actually capture the data and talk about it and report on it. And earlier we talked about the found wallets.
The wallets.
Thing. Well, it turns out that Sweden, which was great with the wallets, not so great on hiring because they're the next highest discrimination, and they actually have good record keeping. So while the French have an aversion to measuring or discussing race and ethnicity, the Swedes don't, but they have a high ratio of not hiring not
Right, and I was surprised followed by Canada, number 3, Great Britain, number
Belgium,
4,
and the Netherlands.
Belgium, the Netherlands, and Norway. I had a fight with somebody from Belgium once talking about how the United States was racist. I said, you're about the size of Iowa with about the same population. I said, and you're all homogeneous. I said, so don't start lecturing us about race in Belgium, of all places, for God's sakes. What's the big difference there? It's Dutch, it's French, or it's German.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was surprised about Canada. But what's happening in Europe, and part of it's the Trump
The effect.
the Trump effect, is there's a lot more immigrants going into Western Europe, and there's trouble with assimilation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think this is an effect of that.
That's been a motivator for their last couple of elections. It's the motivator for Brexit.
And I'm sure that has something to do with it, right? If there's an assimilation issue, and everybody keeps saying it's on its way here.
It's
as well.
one more piece of data that lets you, the job seeker, and I know we're talking about our audience here in the United States, but if you have been looking for a job lately and you're dealing with Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Indeed, and your resume, oh my God, Tim, it is nothing like when we graduated college. You and I were almost guaranteed that a human being would look at that resume and, oh, you know what? It's a new college.
Give you feedback and
you'd sit in front of them. Now, my horror stories of some of the interviews I've had when I was.
We've all had them.
But now?
I had a friend that just interviewed. I might have told you this. She was interviewing at a very well-known retailer, and she was on her 3rd interview, and she's yet to speak to a person. So she got contacted via email and told to log in. She thought she was going to do a Skype or something.
She did some kind of.
Ended up getting a computer, and the computer asking her questions on the screen. She had to fill them in, and then she made it to the next round, in another computer, somewhat diagnostic thing, and then the 3rd computer. And she finally said, "Can I talk to somebody?"
No.
And I don't know what happened, and she just got totally turned off. But you're exactly right. If computers are taking this sort of thing to say, I'm going to decide whether you're worthy or not. First of all, in any sort of job thing, it's chemistry, right? You can teach for skill. You hire for attitude. You teach for skill. You can hire. It's about whether you have chemistry with somebody.
I want to go back to that. You hire for attitude. You can teach the skill. You're right. You hire for a fit.
Did I say that or no?
But it's right.
Yeah.
You
I
hire
might have said it backwards.
You hire for the fit.
Yeah.
And if there's some skill that's lacking, you'll be able to train for it.
Yeah, you can train that in. So I always felt if you knew right away whether you like somebody or you want to work with them, or what are the ones someone on our old platform said to us, don't let the details get in the way of people who want to do business together.
Doing good business. You and I both did for the first time in years. I think I've done a resume for the first time since I was 24. Because I've owned all my own companies. I've been a sole proprietor.
Phone ringing off the hook?
Well, you and I did this because we thought we've been asked to speak at organizations, and people will say, can you send us your resume? Which would be a nice way of them getting an idea of who we are. So we thought we'll invest in it. We hired a writer. They did our resumes. I actually found out that when my resume, as currently created, goes through a computer, it says the following: John Nash has about 20 years of advertising and marketing
How'd you find that out?
Because I found a site online that will analyze your resume.
Oh, really?
I'll just send it to you.
What did you take a screenshot?
A human being, you send a PDF in, and a human being actually got back to me and said, here's some of the language. And then she said, here's what happens when we run it through a computer. And it just said, John Nash has 20 years of marketing and advertising experience.
That's it?
That's it. So for an additional sum, they will take your resume, which mine was 2 pages. I paid it. They got it down to 1 page. It was ugly as sin. It reminded me of what we did in college. Very linear. Now, when you scan that, when the computer scans it, it says John Nash is a creative director with multi-years of storytelling experience, brand building.
Is this about a keyword thing, you think?
That's exactly it. It turns out.
But how come the original resume didn't pick up the keywords?
The original had it, but it had it all embedded in all this flowery language. Now, my sister said to me the other day, she goes, this one pager that you have is very sharp. She goes, sharp. She goes, it's you. But by the way, it's only an aspect of me. And that's the other thing you learn in job search nowadays. Not that we've done this, but you are one thing. to the employer. You're either this or you're this. But you and I being multi-tasked.
Well, you can change them now too easy, right? You never would have thought about having 4 or 5 different resumes.
No. And our old producer, Katie, said that she was talking to a freelancer the other day, and she said, boy, you always have a gig lined up. And the freelancer goes, I send out 40 resumes a week. Click, 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 click. I mean,
Wow.
so that's how different. You and I, in old days, we would find the ad, we'd hand address the envelope, mail it in, right?
And to write a thoughtful cover letter.
And so you could only do like 5 or 6 a day before you got fried. And you usually were getting the right, it's just strange. So this whole discrimination thing adds one more, at least in France and some other countries that scored poorly on this, it adds another impediment to this seemingly impossible task of getting in front of a human being to get a job.
Well, people used to attach their photos to resumes.
I remember that, like a headshot.
Which we always told people not to do, because then again, people will make a judgment right away based upon the photo.
Yeah.
And there were some in the HR department when I was at Subaru. They had a whole wall, the best of.
Really?
Yeah. Behind somebody's door. I don't think everybody knew it was there, but boy, did we laugh. I mean, there was some, like, you can imagine the pictures that people would send in.
It's
those glasses that
Yeah.
change, whatever, but one lens would be dark and one kind of be fuzzy. It's like, you sent
Yeah.
this picture in?
Hey, there was a theory, and I'm not sure it's the one that works anymore, but whatever gets the attention. Resumes used to be, some people used to send, I remember one guy I knew as a graphic designer would do his resume, and he had a die, and he would mount the resume, and it would chop it, and it would create a puzzle.
Oh, really?
He'd take the pieces, put it in a little box, and mail it. He got more interviews than you can imagine.
Really?
Because you'd open this thing up, you're like, what? And by the time you put the puzzle together, I got to talk to this guy. That would never.
Not a bad idea.
But would it ever happen now?
I mean, we used to labor over what weight paper and should it be
Cream-colored,
gray
gray.
or cream, right? Is this somebody? Ooh,
Do I use a Selectric or do I handwrite the letter?
nice paper?
That's the way it goes, folks. All righty. We're going to wrap up the show. We want to thank you for spending your time with us today and downloading and checking. Oh, and by the way, check out Unbuttoned. It's our Tuesday podcast. It's about 20 minutes long. You could subscribe to that over on iTunes or SoundCloud. So a big thanks to Stephen Garrett and a hello to Dante. And is that Drew back there? Hi, Drew. They bring us to you every week with the magic of the studio. Thank you to Deep Discount. It's the Independence sale this week. We talked about a few movies. The release this week is Clute, and Tim recommended Bound on Blu-ray, and I recommended The Grifters. All good movies. So, as we always say, or butcher, don't text and drive, arrive alive, and we will see you in the new week. Thank you.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.